This is Morning in America's Nick Smith, and I'm so happy you're joining me for this edition of In the Mix. Here at NewsNation, we cover a lot of news, but there are always a few stories that I think need a little more attention. And you know me, I always have more thoughts than we actually have time for on Morning in America. So here is where I share those with you, as well as extra content that didn't make the cut during our live show. So welcome to In the Mix with Nick Smith. Woo-hoo. Good afternoon, everybody. I tell you, this has been quite a week. One of the things that I ended on last episode was telling you that I had plans to go visit my brother and my nephew. Where did that come from, Nick? I know. I think I may have said in an episode previously that I found out years ago now that I had a brother and that he and I both, we didn't really know our father that well. We knew him, but we didn't really have a relationship with him. But we really got a chance to just chat at my grandfather's funeral, our grandfather's funeral, where we were both like, hey, I'm Nick. Hey, I'm Calvin. Oh, okay. And I had shared with my mom, you're like, Mom, I'm a little bit jealous, maybe not in those words, but my mother, knowing me, could sense a bit of jealousy. And she's like, wait a minute, Nick, there's no reason to be jealous of him. Neither of you really got a chance to benefit from a relationship with your father. So don't you do that. Don't you feel that way about him. So Calvin and I expressed our own anxiety about not having our father in our lives with each other and made a commitment to each other to spend more time together. And each year, for I'm going to say like the last 4 or 5 years, we've made the commitment to get together and do something and get to know each other. And it has been amazing. Calvin is older. Calvin is 5-6 years older than I am. And his son, Matt, just turned 39. So the three of us, we met up this past weekend in Montgomery, Alabama. Why Montgomery, Alabama, Nick? He actually lives in South Carolina, right on the border of Charlotte in a city called Rock Hill, which is about maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes. You all who live in the Queen City can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about 30 minutes outside of Charlotte. And what makes it so good is that he likes to drive and he likes to visit historical sites. So he says, hey, let's just pick one and we'll do that. And that's what we did. So we did that this weekend. We decided to do Alabama. Neither of us had been to a couple of the historic sites that we wanted to check out. And so that's what we did this week, So I want to tell you about that trip and some of the things that were just absolutely eye-opening. And I also wanted to talk to you about some of the things that make what I do, I feel so special, and that's the colleagues that I work with. You often hear me go on and on about how no one in television does it alone, that there's so many moving parts, among them the writers and producers, makeup artists, camera guys, videographers, editors, sound engineers, so many people that I hope to introduce you to at different points throughout our journey on In the Mix together, so that you can get an idea and a feel and a flesh of how all of this works. Even as I talk about the podcast to different people with whom I work, so many of them have offered suggestions on, oh, Nick, try this the next time you do such and such. And if you need help with so-and-so, let me know. So many people want to see you succeed at this place that it's just, it's home. And it feels good. And it feels good to be wrapped and surrounded by those who are invested in your success. Like some of the people I hope to introduce you to today. I'm going to introduce you to a woman named Mary Planky. Mary Planky started at NewsNation as an intern. And now she's a full-time employee. She shares that journey and words of wisdom for young people looking to get into television. There's also another person whom I absolutely adore, Tina Palafero. Tina Palafero is a writer, producer, segment producer here at NewsNation. What is that, Nick? What does that mean? Well, Tina is going to break it all down for us, and I'll talk to her about how she got started and what she finds to be among the most valuable lessons that she can share with others. And there's also Fran Salas. Frances Salas is a cosmetologist, makeup artist, and one of the many people who help to make Adrian, Marky, Kelsey, and even me look TV ready. You're like, Nick, what can they possibly do to you? You ain't got no hair. It's about more than just the hair. It's also about making sure that the shirt is straight, the collar is pressed, that the shine on the top of my head is gone because I don't have any hair to cover it up. So I have to make sure I'm not too shiny where it's bouncing light off of my head and being a distraction to viewers. So there are just so many different things. One fun fact about Fran, she told me guess what? How did this woman go from race cars to rouge? What, Nick? Yeah, I know. Race cars to rouge. I'm going to ask Frances about that and break it all down. Ready? Let's dive on in. It's time to jump in to the mix. So much happens behind the scenes, and I talk about this all the time, that none of us do it alone. I have an opportunity to work with so many different creative people who love television as much as I do and bring a vast knowledge of experience. One of those people is someone that I've worked with quite a bit. You've seen her on my Instagram page because we've worked together on different things centered on Christmas. We have taken different trips together where we have did the CMAs, the Country Music Awards, and or did the Music Fest. It's just been fantastic working with her and getting to know her over the last couple of years as we've done Morning in America together. Her name is Tina Palafero, and of course I will have you follow her and tag her and all this stuff on social media. But more than anything else, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to her and talk to her about what it takes to be such a dynamic producer that loves television and making all of us shine, because I'm not the only one she works with. Everyone on In the Mix, I want you to meet my friend and colleague, Tina Palafero. Tina, good afternoon.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tina, I love that you're here. Talk to me. I love you. I know who you are. I know what you love to do. Mm-hmm. But so many times people ask me, what does it take to actually do television? Mm-hmm. And why is it so important that you always give a shout out to the people who work behind the scenes? People don't always understand what it is that you do. Who are you and what is it that you do?
So I guess I am a segment producer for the show, but I guess my role is a little bit different than what a lot of the other producers here do. I'm kind of in my own row, as we can say, because I do a lot of more of the entertainment or lighter stories on the show. I also do a lot of the viral sensations that we might see on the show as well. So, I'm always kind of looking for those stories that what makes them tick? What is going viral? What are going to turn heads or anything fun like that? So yeah, I'm always looking for those different stories and trying to bring them to life because I love telling stories.
But to be clear, that doesn't mean that it's fluff, because one of the challenges you also have to face is we have an executive producer who still wants to speak to all segments of America.
Oh, for sure. It has to be newsworthy, for sure. There always has to be an angle. I can't just book anything and everything. There always has to be something to it. But yeah, I've always loved producing. I've always loved behind the scenes. And I love television because I love how 2 days are never the same.
They are never the same. You and I, in fact, we'll just share with our listeners now, we had a whole plan for this week, and then breaking news took over and shifted everything that we had planned to do. Yeah. So how important is it to be able to pivot?
Oh my God, so important. We like you said, we were supposed to do something super fun. It was supposed to be Halloween because, obviously that's right around the corner, and that's something that, who doesn't love fall things that are happening all around the town.
Only one who doesn't like Halloween is Mariah Carey.
Yeah, really. She's already prepped and ready for Christmas, as we all know. But yeah, then, obviously war happens and that takes precedence, and we all have to be like, all right, well, we have to stop and put a pin in it, and we have to, cater to our audience and see what's going on right now.
Tina, when did you know that this was your love? I know for a fact that you worked in radio for a while, but when did you know that actually creating and putting pieces together for others was the thing that you were most passionate about?
I've always known that I wanted to do something in entertainment or media, honestly, since I was like 8 years old. I've always loved more of like the behind the scenes, even like watching red carpets when I was younger. But I always was curious, like, okay, how are these people, or who are these people that are bringing these things to life? Because, obviously it's great and all to see these anchors, tell a story, but, who are the people that are presenting these
Because
stories
even
to
then, you knew
them?
these anchors were not digging and doing the
No,
homework, right?
there's always somebody behind the story,
Right.
And so I was like, you know what? Like, one thing about me is, I'm such a people person, and I always knew at like a young age, like, I've always been super, super like extroverted. So, I've always wanted to talk to people and I wanted to learn their story. And I think that was like a passion project of mine, that it was like, you know what? I want to talk to these people. I want to find these people, and, I want to present them to the world, because I think, we can all learn something from somebody out there,
And I'm thinking too, Tina, it can't always be easy. There are times when I'm sure there are stories you want to do, but you still have to try to find a way to bring it to life. Some people, I have to believe, you've had situations, and I'd love for you to tell us about one where you thought they'd be dynamic on camera, and then you meet them and you're like, oh, wow, this is not going the way I wanted.
I mean, you're pinpointing me here, Nick.
Drop no names, no names.
No. I mean, I can't. I would have to say it's a handful, to be honest. I mean, there's some people that, they may seem like, okay, they have a really, really cool story on social media. And then you're like, okay, well, I have to hop on a phone call to see if for them to tell me
Wait,
more.
what do you mean a phone call? So you actually vet then sometimes
For
as
sure.
well?
There's always a pre-screening process. You can't just be like, okay, like this person sounds great. Let's just, send them an email and let them hop on our show. No, I mean, there's a whole process where you're finding these people, and then, you have to contact them, and they're like, okay, let's find a time to chat. And then once you're talking to them, you're like, okay, well, they seem super outgoing on social media, but then you're talking to them on their phone, and it's kind of like they clam up and they go into a hole of some kind, and you're like, okay, well, what can we do to kind of bring them out of their shell a little bit, So whether that's having more conversations, or, even bringing an anchor involved, or saying, let's have a pre-interview, or there's been people that have been like, okay, I would love to be on your show, but can I actually talk to the person that's going to be interviewing me a couple minutes prior, whether it's the day before or even hours before, just for that comfort level, because, some people aren't like you, Nick, where, you could just hop on camera and it just comes so naturally,
This is not about, seriously though, is there, Tina, because I think that people may be surprised to learn that there are different talent, maybe different anchors who operate differently when interviewing someone, or you're like, wait a minute, I had a great pre-screen interview with this guest, and how did it just fall flat with my anchor there? How important is it to have that relationship as well?
Oh my God, so important. For me especially, because I feel like my interviews, because they are a little bit lighter sometimes, although they are lighter and more fun, sometimes those interviews are the ones that have a little bit more detail into them.
Because people have relaxed and they're sharing more.
For sure.
Right,
and
right.
so, whether it's I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to Adrian or Marky or any other anchor, Kelsey, on our show, I'm always feeling like, for me at least, I feel better when I prep you guys in advance, when I'm like, here, this is what I know about them. This is the extra little nugget. This is something, there's always that extra detail, I feel like, with certain stories like that. Even like when we do our games on our show, I came up with a game on our show. It's called Think Fast Thursday, which you love to lead on Thursdays. But you can even tell everybody for that, like, I really think about, okay, how can we do this differently every Thursday? But I always sit down with you every morning, every Thursday, and I'm like, okay, this is how it's got to go. This is the way it's got to flow. This is where you got to, take a pause. Let's do a pun there. Let's do something to make it, work.
Tina, the last question I have for you, for those sitting back who want to jump into the business, you've seen it change. What is your advice to young people wanting to get in television or entertainment?
So there is a woman out there, obviously a lot of people have probably heard her name. Her name is Juliana Rancic. I met her in the business years ago. I followed her. She was one of the people that I looked up to since I was 8 years old. And then, she would work for E! And she did all the red carpets and all that. And then years later, I actually got to meet her. And then years after that, I actually did a few segments with her. But one thing that she told me is, she says, always be a yes person. No matter what, whether it's something that you exactly don't want to do, always say yes. Even if, she just said, it'll open so many different doors for you. So even if it's something that, even as an intern or a producer or anything like that, I always try to say yes as much as I can.
And how has that worked out for you?
I think it's worked out okay. I mean, I'm here and I'm still employed and I'm happy. So, I mean, it's good. But yeah, I would say just try to always be a yes person and always try to get involved in different internships. I'm a big internship believer. I did about 4 before I actually started my career in radio and then moved on to different television shows. But to see, I feel like internships for me really opened up like a light of like what I wanted to do, because there were so many different in media, as you know, there's so many different ways that you can go, whether you want to be on air, if you want to be behind the scenes, if you want to be a writer, if you want to be producer, there's so many different ways. Like everybody's like, okay, I like TV or I like radio, but you don't know exactly which lane you want to go in. But internships kind of really open your eyes into like thinking what you want to do.
Tina Palafero, ladies and gentlemen, producer extraordinaire here at News Nation. Tina, where can everybody find you on social?
You can find me on social media at Tina_PALI.
Tina Palafero. Tina, thank you so much.
Of course, anytime.
And like I told you, joining me this afternoon was a special guest, someone I wanted to introduce to all of you, someone I've had an opportunity to work with, who has been an absolute joy for so many reasons. I get questions all the time, you all asking me, Nick, how do I make the leap? How do I make the jump? What should I do if I want to work in television news? What's the best path, the best approach? Well, my guest this afternoon is Mary Planky. Mary started as an intern here at News Nation and continued to just do the work and speak with both her supervisor and those who brought her on board, to talking about what her own career ambitions were and her own goals, and how she, made the transition to a full-time employee and has found her way and her path in television news, and says, you know what, it's not as hard as you think, but you must be proactive. Everyone listening to In the Mix, I'd like to introduce Mary Planky. Mary, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked me.
Absolutely. Mary, I want to talk to you about what it means to go from the role of intern to full-time employee. Talk to me about what that journey was like for you and why you knew News Nation was the spot that would work best for you.
Oh, I mean, it's a whirlwind. I personally, I just got involved in everything that I could. I put my hands in every opportunity that I could. If opportunities were happening and I wasn't offered them, I would find a way to get myself in there. So just taking every single opportunity, seeking newer, chances for growth, whether that's, kind of talking to other people with other shows at your network and just making your own path that way.
I'm glad you said talking to other people, because I think that sometimes when new people start places, they're afraid to ask those questions. You weren't afraid to do that.
Absolutely not. Nope. I would ask people. If I didn't know somebody, I would ask somebody to introduce me. Or if I kind of had a thought in my head of something that I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how to get there, I would, ask somebody, hey, do you know of an opportunity where I could do this or where I could learn more? And then they would, introduce me to another person, and then I would get opportunities that way.
Mary, what is your parting word for those who are interested in getting a start? What should they do?
It sounds very cliche, but network. This industry is a big industry, but when you start networking, you realize that it's a really close-knit industry and it's not as big as you actually think. So that is my one piece of advice.
Mary Planky, thank you so much. And where can people find you on social?
On social, you can find me on Twitter at Mary Planky, and you can find me on Instagram at Mary Curis.
Mary, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I promised you that today would be all about the people who helped to put this show together. My next guest is someone that I've worked with since I started here at News Nation, that you don't get a chance to see, but sees me every day. And then before I go on camera, she makes sure that I've gotten my act together. Frances Silas is a cosmetologist and makeup artist. She has worked with some of the bigger names that you may know, who are celebrities in and outside of Chicago. But she's also worked with us here at News Nation to make sure that we look our best before we go on camera. And it's more than just slapping on a little bit of foundation or just spraying our hair into place. In my case, there is no hair. But both Adrian and Marky definitely have hair. And she works to make sure that we not only look our best, but that we feel confident before we go on camera, because none of us do it alone. Ladies and gentlemen, listening to In the Mix today, I want to introduce you to Francis Silas. Francis, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, Francis. Thank you so much for joining me today because I wanted to talk to you. I want you to
Yes.
tell me about your journey. So many people see what we look like when we get on camera, but there's so much that goes into it behind the scenes because part of your job is also making us feel confident about how we look before we go out there.
Yes, I agree with that. I actually worked with a photographer once, and he said, between you and the talent and the photographer, there's the makeup artist, right? How are you making your person feel? They should feel their best, and you should. And I always think about him every time, he has since passed, but I remember him every time I work on somebody. You have to let people feel their best. They have to look their best, feel their best, and I think we help them reach that. Whatever, we're always the sounding board too. I feel like people vent to us. They let us know how they're feeling, what they're experiencing in life, and I like being there for them.
Anyone who has followed my Instagram has seen you captured in different moments. You're not someone who loves being on camera. That's usually one of the things about all
Or
of
on
you.
video.
You and the team that I work with, you, Liv, Aisha, none of you seek to be on camera. In
No.
fact, we can make the argument that if I weren't posting you on Instagram, for the most part, there wouldn't be many things posted there. But talk to me about that because it seems that many artists work that way. Many of
Yes.
you don't seek the limelight that way.
No. I mean, no. I like to be behind the scenes. Why? I don't know. I mean, no. Like, I was in plays in high school, and even after high school, I thought I wanted to be like an actor or whatever, but I just didn't like that attention, to be honest with you.
When did you find out that you had a talent, and when did it become a calling?
Oh, wow. See, I loved everything. Magazines. It was always a magazine or race cars. I loved race cars.
Wait a minute. Race cars, eyelashes. Would you please make that connection for me, please?
I don't even know what to say. And I never knew that there was a business in it. I didn't know I could be a makeup artist and I could do that for a living. Women weren't race cars drivers when I was a kid. So I'm like, what do I want to do when I grow up, And I was very artsy as a child. I painted. I worked with clay. I used to take the Avon lipsticks, those little samples, mix it with flour or cornstarch, and I would make my own blush.
So you knew that there was
Yeah, I
something
think I
connected
did.
there. I love that. And it's
Yeah.
funny because you say that. That is an art because we've talked about there are women who can do their own makeup but can't do others.
So that's 100%. And I had the great privilege of working for a company, MAC Cosmetics, and back in the day they only hired like artists. So it was like, oh, she paints, she sculpts, and working on a 3D, in a person was an amazing experience. We got to work with all ages, all races, all sexes, and it was just I don't think we can put that in a school. Even going to school will teach you that. It won't. It will not. The hands-on experience we got at MAC Cosmetics was extraordinary.
And then what's so funny is that our listeners may not know you're also a mom and your daughter couldn't care less about makeup.
No, one likes it a little bit, and the other one's like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, okay.
I love that. And so many people want to get started in the business. You've seen the industry change. Do you
Yes.
recommend it for those who are burgeoning artists who want to be involved in cosmetics or art and makeup and television and film? Or would you say, ooh, have a backup plan, or if you know this is what you want to do, go all in?
Yes, I say go all in. If this is what you want, this is your love. I tell my kids this too. You can do anything you want in life, but you have to work for it. So go all in and find out everything you can about the craft. If you want to work on TV, you have to know how to do prosthetics. You learn how to make a bullet hole and work with like fake blood and all that stuff. Learn it, but you have to practice it. Sometimes there's not schools out there, but there's I would recommend doing a special effects class for sure.
I think one of the things I could not help but notice when we talk about makeup and makeup artists, I myself have worked with people who are every age, every ethnicity, and it seems as though the one thing is true: the artistic creativity behind being a makeup artist is universal.
Yes.
It knows no boundary, it knows no gender, it knows no race.
No, I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else. Like, I'm good at business. I tried the business aspect. When I was at Mac, I became a manager. I managed my own store. I had 25 employees. It was fun and whatnot. But I love that one-on-one with somebody.
You love having your hand on that brush.
I do. I love it. I really do.
Well, friend, we love you. Those who are listening may not know today is your birthday, and I want to let you know how much you mean to us. So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find Fran on Instagram. I will, of course, link her Instagram on the bottom of this show page today. And once again, Fran, thanks so much for joining us on In the Mix.
Thank you for having me.
Don't forget, you can watch me and my Morning in America family on NewsNation weekdays, starting at 6 a.m. in the East, 5 a.m. Central. And if you don't know where to catch us, you can always go to www.joinnn.com. You'll see a drop-down box. That's where you enter your zip code, and the channel finder will show you the broadcast channel in your area. But we're also on all the streamers: Hulu, Roku, YouTube TV, as well as Amazon Alexa and Apple CarPlay. This is Nick Smith, and thanks so much for joining me for this edition of In the Mix with Nick Smith.